Welcome to Love 101 Media. I'm Na'Im Najieb. This channel is dedicated to opening the conversation about love and healthy relationships. What you're about to see is a conversation that I had with my friend Crisco about love and about how to do love, introducing love as a skill rather than just a concept, which is my whole idea for this channel and this movement, Love 101 Media. So, Love 101, as in love as a university, a school, a lesson that can be mastered, not just something you fall into and fall out of. Just like communication, just like any skill. So, I also wanted to give this introduction because the video cuts out at a certain point, and then at the end, it ends abruptly because we ran out of battery, and we just didn't plug it in. We just continued talking because it was a great conversation. So I wanted you to know that up front and enjoy the conversation because it is a lengthy conversation. So I really enjoyed it and I wanted to share it, and that's the purpose of this channel too, for everyone, not just me, but anyone who has healthy ideas about love and relationships to share, and also to help us see what we can do differently when it comes to relationships that fail or relationships that are hurtful, right? So, without further ado, here's the conversation between me and Crisco, unedited, except for the parts that the camera cuts off. Thanks for watching.
Love talk. Take one. Go.
Yeah, take one. We gotta make it natural. Like we're just talking. We're just sitting here talking. The camera's not even there.
Oh, great.
Except
Okay,
that
cool.
it is.
It's even better.
All right. So let's just start. Hey, Crisco.
I'm good. How are you?
All right. This is not natural. Let's start over.
How about this?
Yeah. Okay. So, welcome to Love 101, where we talk about love, relationships, sex, communication, and everything of the kind. I'm here with my friend Crisco. My name is Na'Im Najieb, by the way, and this is Love 101 Media. So, I asked you to, just a few minutes ago, to join me in this conversation because I want to start more conversations around love and relationships
In a casual setting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're home, we're on the couch, we're talking, and so our goal is just to talk about this and to share some ideas and to hopefully inspire you who watch this to also have conversations about this. So the topic today is how to love. Now, the whole idea behind Love 101 is for us to look at love as a skill more so than as a concept, an abstract concept or idea that people fall into in these things. Because if it's a skill, like communication is, then you can improve your communication, right? Mm-hmm. You can learn and master skills. But, yeah.
And also, I mean, you should finish realistically.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, but like with all skills, we fail, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get better at those skills, and I feel like in order to develop upon like love as a skill, you need to fail at love too. And I think that that's something that we get caught up in this culture, right? And this culture built around love, where people get into relationships and they stay in them because they're afraid, or there's this fear of like breaking up with someone, or like having your heart broken, or you know what I mean, right? So we put ourselves through even more problems by staying with people that might, you should. My point being, we need to learn how to love as a skill, and you need to fail in previous loves. And I don't know if that like ties in with anything that.
Well, it does, because if it is a skill, that means that there's a way
to do it that doesn't work. You know, just like cooking is a skill. We've all burnt food and stuff. That's not cooking, that's burning food. So if you got your heart broken, then you weren't loving or being loved at that time. You were the opposite of that.
Sure.
Love is healing. And that's the point of this first initial conversation is to get us past the hurdle, this philosophical hurdle of this big question that people get caught up on, and it's this: what is love? Now, before you answer, because I'm not asking the question, I'm just putting it out there to show that this is a question that needs to be dealt with and done away with so we can move on.
Right.
Because if you know what cooking is, you know, preparing nourishing food, then we don't have to say, so what is cooking? Like, we're both sitting here starving, right? We're like, so what is cooking? Like, no, like, can you cook?
Yeah.
Can I cook? Can we get some food on so we can eat? That's what we want. We want to be nourished, not just sit here and banter about it. So I have come up with 5 basic pillars of love. And it is encapsulated in the word FACTS. It's an acronym. I haven't shared this with you before, right?
No.
Right? Okay, so this is my experiment. So my experiment is
F.A.C.T.S, yes?
F.A.C.T.S. That one,
Facts.
yeah, the one where it's like, this is an actual thing that happened, facts, yeah. So my experiment is if I can share this idea with you, and if we can agree on it, at least agree to entertain that meaning for now, then we can move on to the how.
Sure.
So when we get out of the what phase, then we can move on to the how. So, and I'm sharing it with you guys. So what is love? Love is freedom. F, freedom. Love is A, appreciation. Love is C, communication. Love is T, trust. And love is S, sincerity. So if you have those things, freedom, appreciation, communication, trust, and sincerity, in a relationship, any relationship, not just romantic.
Not just romantic, yeah.
Then that's a loving relationship.
Yeah.
And it takes both. So I'm going to just go ask you to repeat them. I'm going to say it one more time, and I'm going to ask you to say it back to me. And then we'll talk about what you think about it. So once again, freedom, appreciation, communication, trust,
yes,
sincerity. So go for it.
Freedom, appreciation, communication, trust, and sincerity.
Yes. So what do you?
I like appreciation.
Yeah.
I'm by no means. I want to elaborate on that. I want to try and have some thoughts on it. I also like acceptance too. I think that like one thing that I failed in one particular relationship, but like many relationships, romantic and non-romantic, was like acceptance. I feel like, you know, accepting people for who they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a big part of loving someone. I mean, I think there's a lot of aspects to love, whether it's a friendship, a family member, you know what I mean, like type of relationship, or if it's a like romantic relationship. And I think that, you know, for the most part, for me, I want to accept people for who they are and love them for that. And you know what, I think that ties in with appreciation too, because you're celebrating a person for who they are. You're appreciating them for what they, like who they are, not just what they do for you, because that's selfish. I don't think that's love at all.
Right, because you don't do anything for me, I don't appreciate you, right?
Yeah, just appreciate you for being you, you know? Like, I love our relationship. I appreciate you just for being you. I think it's a nice, I've loved getting to know you. I appreciate you, you know what I mean?
I appreciate you too.
Yeah, so, anyway, I'm not trying to change your facts.
No. Oh, you don't love me. You're not trying to change the facts already. We didn't even get out the gate yet.
I accept no.
No.
So
that's the point of the conversation. I want you to think about it. So
we have freedom, we have appreciation, communication, trust, and sincerity. You know what I like about this too is that, you know, kind of like what you were talking about with cooking earlier. Cooking as a skill, love as a skill. You know, cooking isn't necessarily just one thing. Depending on who you're with, who you're cooking for, that can change. You communicate with, if you and I are going to cook a meal, you know, you and I might cook pasta differently because you and I realized that, like, okay, well, we both like our pasta bland with just, you know, red sauce, and it doesn't need to have all the fixings, parsley, salt, you name it, whatever. But you can be with someone else that would really love that, you know what I mean? And that is communication, I feel like. So that's one tiny thing.
Well, even if
of your facts.
they're like a vegetarian, it doesn't mean that they think meat is bad. They just don't include it in their diet. So
right.
That's if you're cooking and eating with someone, or someone who's a vegetarian cooks for you. It doesn't mean, oh well, I don't cook meat or I don't eat meat, so I'm judging you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that. So.
Yeah. And I don't want to turn this into a conversation about cooking, but you know, as a vegetarian, it's topical you bring this up. I love to cook meat. Anyway, I like this because this is kind of like, these facts are like a recipe, right? These 5 things together, right? F.A.C.T.S. Yeah, together are a recipe for creating love. Am I correct in understanding that from your it's your philosophy?
It's for you to have your own understanding, and so I'm gonna say that. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is in alignment with what I'm talking about. It's a platform for you to build your understanding and your acceptance of what love is as a skill, so that you can now do the how, because that's the what, that's the basis, the baseline, or the platform, and now we can build. But if we're still talking about, well, what is love, what is food, what is cooking, like, come on, y'all, like, can we just decide that this here that's edible, that is good for us, is food, and this here that will kill us if we eat it is not edible? And now we can start experimenting with recipes and things like that. So, talking about freedom, let's start with one. Then, well, first of all, do I have your, you know, at least your acceptance or of that idea as something we can move forward with? Of facts, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, now, starting with freedom, what does that look like in a relationship? What does that mean?
I think for a lot of people that can be really tricky. For someone like me, I'm a very open individual.
Okay.
You know what I mean? For me, I think freedom, it's both ways. Freedom is understanding that your partner is an individual, partners, or not romantically, just friend.
So let's use us then.
Yeah.
So we're here. So what does freedom mean between you and me?
Between platonic friends.
To you.
Yeah, right. I think that means that, you know, obviously on the surface, I see you as a person, right? Not like your own individual person that has your own existence. You're not a product of my own environment existence, you know what I mean? And I think freedom is simply that, is the fact that, like, you are who you are, and however you choose to exist is your will. It's not mine. You know what I mean? I think that if I was to say, hey, I really want to go out and get a pizza, and you're just like, no, I feel like cooking. The freedom for me and our friendship would be accepting that is what you want to do, right? And if you're just like, yeah, no, I'll get a pizza and we'll go together, then that's also your freedom, my freedom to go and then do that thing together. But I'm not going to harbor any like distaste or like I guess just distaste for you wanting to be your own, you know, person and do what you want to do. And I think that works on my end too. So yeah, I think friendships, romantic, like, we have to know that people have the freedom to choose and do what they want to do.
Well, I forbid you to get a pizza. What's that though? That's, you know, that's clearly not.
Well, I think that with a lot of the facts that there can be an opposite, right? Then the facts is a good, you know, recipe for love.
Sounds like you're talking about clarity charts now, which is good. No, keep going, because I want to write something now.
I think that, like, there's two ways. So you have these facts for love, but I think that you could also have facts for something that isn't yeah, let's use the word clarity, like something that's blurred, something that's getting in the way of love, right? A flower that isn't blooming, you know what I mean? And I don't want to say the word failed relationships or anything, but like there's love, but then there's relationships that don't work, and for reasons that I'm sure you probably have some things like, you know, figured out. But yeah,
figuring them out right now as we go. Go ahead. I'm still listening.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I think so. Just getting back to freedom in the context of like love, relationships, I think just, you know, in summation, to some extent, I think that in order to be healthy, there needs to be a certain level of freedom, and you need to have trust.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like there's a recipe for all. I'm sure you can. There could be 5 facts for just freedom alone. You know what I mean? That would also apply. So, you know, kind of like a tree. There's many branches. I think there's branches to facts, but there's also branches to the F of facts, which is freedom, and so on and so forth. So
exactly, because how does that look in a platonic, romantic, family, etc. relationship, right? And what would you say? Because we're being general. What would you say the opposite of freedom is?
Control.
Okay.
I mean, just off the top of my head, control, and I think that that's a dangerous game, and I think that a lot of people don't realize in themselves when they're being controlling. I mean, I think it's natural for humans to have some level of like, well, this is my life, this is my existence, this is my perspective, and you know, I have control over myself, but that's when you have to stop, ground yourself, and realize that you have no control over anyone else and how they do things, and that is very dangerous when people start to have that control, because then you start to have unhealthy relationships. You get, you know, manipulation and distrust and anger and instilling fear in other people. You get into a whole that's a whole road
So
of bad that you don't want to go down, I feel like.
I agree, and that's why I think the facts, if we can figure out the opposite side of it, then
would be really important.
That would be like a diagnostic tool, so that, okay, I'm in this relationship and this person is trying to control me, trying to change me, trying to tell me that I can no longer do or be the person I was when we met, or even if I'm changing and evolving throughout our relationship, and they want me to go back to being someone I used to be last year or 2 years ago, whatever.
Or an idea in the
head, right? Because a lot of people
in the future, almost.
Yeah, I want you to be the potential I see in you, rather than who you are right now. That's a big thing in relationships. People are like, yeah, I see so much in you. It's like, well, can you just see me?
Yeah, right.
And can you appreciate me?
For what's in front of you and what's happening now.
Right, because that is a low-key way. It's a slick way of saying, you know, I want to be in a relationship with you as long as you're not in it. Like, I want the Crisco that, it's like saying, I want 250-pound Crisco, not however much you weigh now Crisco. Or I want 40-year-old Crisco, not however old you are now Crisco. I want Crisco that has this much money, not the one that has this much money. So you're saying, if I'm not this person, then you don't want me.
Sure.
You see that I have the potential to maybe be 250 pounds.
Sure.
I don't know about me, but, you know, to make this much money. So it's like, yeah, I'll be with you because I think you can make that money. But how about just be with me because you love and appreciate me? Like, that's the thing. So
there's a level of unrealistic expectations, or just realistic expectations, but just not at the right time with some of what you just said. But there's also some of this, like, you know, imperfection, the idea of like perfection and imperfection, right? And seeing an ideal version of a relationship in your mind, and I think that's where some control can be detrimental. You know what I mean? Whereas freedom can just be like, you open so many doors to happiness on both ends, I feel like.
yes.
And getting back to love as a skill, you need to fail to learn that stuff sometimes. I mean,
So how do you fail at freeing someone? Like, how do you fail at, or being free?
More so so interesting question. How do you fail at I don't know. There would have to be some other aspect of the relationship that is failing. Maybe not necessarily. Or, you know, freedom could be one of them in the instance of control. because I think that would be the reason why, and not to use fail again, I think that's the reason why a relationship could fail.
But
has the potential to fail.
Let's use that as a model. So how do you fail at appreciation in a relationship?
How do you fail at appreciation?
Let's just go down the line. So failing at freedom is control. Failing at appreciation would be
if you appreciate someone, then you see in them the like beauty, who they are at their core. I think failing at appreciation would be like having distaste or I think like a partner comes home and they want to tell you about your day, but you don't have time for it. You don't want to hear it. You don't want to listen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what word I'm trying to think of that I could tie that into one word.
Yeah.
But that's how I would see that. Like the opposite of appreciation would be not caring about your partner and their interests or their goals.
Okay.
I would feel appreciated in a relationship if I came home at the end of the day and my partner wanted to hear about it, or if I was just like, hey, listen, say for upkeep around the house, or or life goals. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, I want to have kids, or I want to get married, or the opposite of that, or not the opposite rather, but like house things. Like, say you live in a space and you have a particular way of doing something, but they have a particular way of doing something. This kind of gets into communication a little bit, but you can show your appreciation for someone that you're in a relationship by caring about the things they care about. And I think that if you can show a lack of appreciation or make someone feel not appreciated by not caring about the things that they care about. And that can break you down. At the end of the day, when you're with someone, whether it's a platonic friendship or if it's a multiple partner, romantic relationship or just monogamous, like partnership, you want to feel appreciated. You want to feel like loved. You know what I mean?
And not taken for granted. And
Yeah.
like, it's another thing that came. You said not caring.
Mm-hmm.
So ingratitude.
Not taken for granted is
Yeah. So it's like the whole. Well, like I use this example all the time. Back to food. Let's say.
I think that's good. We should just use food a bunch.
Stay on that.
It's
So you cook, right? So let's say your partner is you cook every day, and your partner comes over, maybe not every day, but every other day or whatever, and then they come over, you cook.
Right, this is a scenario in which you don't live together.
You don't live together, or whatever. It could work both ways. But let's just say every time they come over, you don't live together, and you cook, you make enough food for them, or you share, and then they, after some time, come to expect this and come to think that, well, that's just what you're always going to do. So before they used to get their own food,
It's a good example.
but now they just come over on an empty stomach and expect you to cook for them, and then one day maybe just like, well, I don't want to cook, or I'm not going to, or what have you, and then like, well, you knew I was coming over, how come you didn't?
It could ignite like some sort of spark or something.
Yeah, right. So that's intermission. So the thing is, like, all right, well, every time the question is, do you owe them food? No. Do you? So every time you cook and share, that they should be grateful. They should be grateful for it. You're doing it not because they're giving you money or anything. You're doing it because you want to. So when they come and say, well, you didn't cook, you didn't think about me.
I was expecting this.
Yeah. Now
that appreciation gets lost over time. Or
So
you
you
lose sight
can
of it.
start feeling taken for granted because it's like, okay, well,
Right.
you didn't even bring
For sure.
anything. You didn't bring anything for me to cook. You didn't. You never bring food for me.
And I think in this scenario, that could also come down to some of the other facts that you have. And I think communication, not to go back to this often, but it ties in well, like to most aspects of this. Is that I think communication is one of the most important ones, and in this scenario, that could be one of those things where you don't lose sight of appreciating someone when there is communication involved. Because say, again, using this scenario, you can communicate, hey, I don't feel like cooking tonight. I know you're coming over, and I know that I've been cooking for you for the past 2-3 months when we come over and do these dates, or when you come over, etc., whatever it is. If you communicate that, then you're shattering that expectation for the other person, or the other person can then have that platform to say, well, hey, you know, like maybe we can go out then, or you know, there can be compromise,
Right.
you know, instead of expectations, right? So, you know, I think communication.
Right. So what would be the
What would be the opposite of
would be
communication?
the failure in communication? You're talking about failing in these things to learn. So how do you fail in communication? What is that? What's a word for that? I'm gonna put down miscommunication, of course.
Yeah, miscommunication is a big one. For sure. I mean, obviously that it's the natural opposite, right?
You know what another big one is? Thinking you know the person, so you don't even ask questions anymore.
Yes, right, and that I think you know, I was gonna say I think the opposite to communication, I was gonna say, could be like some mental illness traits, whether it be like anxiety or depression, or just straight up silence. You know what I mean? That goes both ways. I think if someone has anxiety or depression, that could create a lack of communication because of a fear of bringing up one's, you know, own truth. You know what I mean? Like a fear of just saying what's on their mind for whatever reason. Maybe fear of what the response is going to be, or fear of acceptance, or you know what I mean. So I think the opposite of communication could be anxiety, and anxiety could also be depression, right? But also, I think on a more dangerous level, kind of like with freedom and the dangerous level of control, I think silence can be the opposite, or the negative, right?
The failure in that.
The failure. You're right.
You're like
Is
paralyzed out of fear.
Paralyzed out of fear, or just silence in general, whether you're just, you know, you don't appreciate or respect or have, you know, acceptance of your partner to the point where like you're just stuck and you fall silent almost.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that what you said too also is a good thing to keep in mind too, or write down, is like you feel like you know someone too much or too well, and that can be dangerous too.
Yeah.
Because then you're compartmentalizing. You're putting someone in a box in your mind. You're just like, you set up unrealistic expectations. You're just like, oh, I don't need to talk to you about that because I know how you're gonna react to it, or I know, you know what I mean. And in some relationships, romantically, that can be cute. It's just like, oh, you get me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I love how we can finish each other's sentences, or I know how you know what I'm thinking. It's like, you know, it could be cute, but it can be dangerous too.
Yeah, when it switches from that's on a vibration of that's on a positive level. Like, okay, oh wow, we're really connecting. When you're connecting, but it can be disconnected when you're like, oh, I already know what you're gonna say, so I'm not even gonna bring it up. I'm not even gonna do anything. I'm gonna separate. But when we feel connected, we want to join. But when I think I know you so well that I already had the conversation in my head and I just dismiss you, that causes disconnection. So yeah, that's a signal to ask a question, right? You know, ask. So yeah, I feel like you're gonna react this way, but let me just ask you what it is. You know?
I'd say 9 times out of 10, whatever fear someone has of asking a question is almost always better to just ask the question, because the fear that you can, the fear of scenarios that you can make up in your mind are far worse than what the reality of the, you know, or what the reality is going to become. And now I think that like abusive relationships are their own special category.
Yeah.
I think that like in that particular scenario, that's a legitimate fear, you know, bringing something up to communicate for whatever reason, you know, whether it's verbal or like physical abuse. That's tricky. That's something that I'm not particularly well versed in, because I've never been in, you know, verbally or like physically abusive relationships, other than like hearing about them, reading about them, stuff like that. But I've never had that experience to feel like I could confidently, you know, talk about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's a thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
for the negatives.
That's something that, of course, on this side it would be not freedom, not appreciation, not communication, not trust. So now that we're at trust, then what would be the failure in that?
I think jealousy, right?
Okay. Yes.
You know, jealousy can be the leading, you know, like cause for lack of trust.
But how about when people say, "Oh no, I trust him. I'm just a jealous person." You know, what is jealousy?
I think that could
that
be
is disregarding trust. What does it mean?
That could be insecurity. You know,
insecurity.
In individuals' insecurity, and I think that that's something that people can work on. So, I don't think, you know, hearing that's tough. I mean, I think that there's some level of like, it's a tricky thing. I mean, if someone is saying like, and again, I've definitely, jealousy it's in everyone. I don't care if you're monogamous or polyamorous, non-monogamous, whatever, like whatever situation. I think jealousy is a big part of the human experience. And so, yeah, to hear that kind of scenario of just like, oh, I trust you, I'm just a naturally jealous person, I don't know, that raises a red flag to me. It's just like, I don't want to contradict myself. I just said that it's a natural thing in all of us, but to say it like that, it raises a red flag where it's just like, well, it's assumed that like if I was to do something like, say in a monogamous relationship, go out with an ex, that could raise a red flag for the partner and just be like, well, I'm a little jealous. Like, you know, in a very healthy relationship, there could be a certain level of communication and trust, and just be like, well, listen, if you're gonna go to dinner with an ex, like I trust, you know, you, and we talked about this, and I feel like, you know, we're at a good point. Like, go, you know what I mean? And there would still be a level of anxiety or jealousy. You know what I mean? And maybe jealousy isn't like the best thing, but anxiety.
Okay, continuing. I think you completed your thought on jealousy before
Yeah.
So, continuing. I was saying, you know what it comes down to, that red flag with jealousy is not that we feel it, because we all feel whatever the insecurity or feeling is doesn't feel good. It's what someone's going to do with that feeling. You know, because we hear about people getting murdered over jealousy. We hear about people getting stalked and all this other stuff. So it's like, have the feeling, but don't kill nobody over it.
Don't act on it. Like, So in the scenario of someone being like, oh, I trust them, but I'm just a naturally jealous person, that raises that red flag to me, where it's just like, what are you really saying?
Yeah, so what are you going to do?
It's like,
okay? I see you're feeling jealous, and it's not that, and again, if you were naturally jealous, you would feel jealous in every situation with every person every time, not just in a specific situation with a specific person. It's a perception that the jealousy is a perception that you own or control someone, which comes back to freedom and the control thing and whatnot. That it's their presence. Someone is being robbed from you by someone else, as if you own them in the first place, you know what I mean? But it is very human to feel territorial about things that we care about, but it is not loving to actually act on that. It's like, okay, well, I see you going out with an ex, and you're free to do that, and we can communicate about that.
And we should communicate it.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, too, even if a jealous partner is just like, I really don't feel comfortable with it, you know, where does that leave you on your end? You know, I think part of you has to appreciate that part of that person, and maybe face the difficult decision of being like, well, you know what, my partner isn't comfortable with this, I should respect. It creates that difficult decision of like, what do I do? And I think realistically, like, if you have a healthy relationship and there's communication, you should choose something that makes your partner feel comfortable. Well, because then otherwise you might compromise the relationship.
Well, here's a question: how healthy is it if there is trust? If we're claiming there's trust here, but you going out with an ex is going to compromise the entire relationship, then the question is, how strong or healthy is
the relationship?
Is the skill of love really, is the communication and the trust and all of that really where we say it is, or we just saying it? But when it comes down to this test, which that's a test, our foundation is getting rocked a little bit. Maybe our foundation is not as strong as we thought, which is a good realization.
Sure.
So I think,
and if it's a skill, this is something that you need to experience in order to build upon that. So
right, because we can fail, like you said. And now if
it could be the individual, or the relationship.
right, and it takes both of us, takes both people, however many people in the relationship, to have the skills in order for it to. It's kind of like a car has 4 tires, but if one of them goes flat, you can't expect the other 3 to do all the work. You know, all 4 tires need to work for you to have a legitimate, safe ride.
Yep.
You know, so for
like any good machine, all the pieces should work. Like the van, you know what I mean? That thing is, you know, there's aspects of it that are missing and that need a lot of work, and because of that, and
it's working off the love right now. You know,
it really
it's really
is
running off the love.
It really is.
now.
And I know, I'm sorry, this is out of context.
No, it's fine. It's how we would talk. I want us to talk how we would talk.
Yeah.
You know, I get the cameras rolling and stuff, but you know, this is more. I don't care if anybody watches. It's more for us.
Yeah, just open conversation.
Yeah, because we would be having this conversation
anyway.
So
for real.
You know, I just, you know, and I appreciate this conversation.
Same.
And I hope my, you know, like my regimented way of going through things is not.
That's great.
Like, okay, because that's how, like, when you start talking about it.
I feel like there'd be a little bit of chaos if it wasn't.
I started making a list, clarity chart on the whole facts, and on the other side, we got up to trust, and we were saying, so what's the failure in trust? And you said jealousy and insecurity, and of course distrust comes in there. But then, what about sincerity? What's the failure or the opposite of that? Spin was just working. Come on. All right.
For lack of better term, being fake.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I understand. Again, like I just don't want to create antonyms, but
No, it's
and that's why I said, for lack of a better term, like I can come up with something more eloquent than that for sure. But just off the top of the head, or you know, it seems to make sense that, like, if you're in a relationship with a yes person, you know, someone that's just like, or a chameleon, right? Someone that's always gonna just say yes to whatever you want to do.
They're showing you their representative, not their true self.
Or they're really attracted to you and they don't want to lose. You know what I mean? Like, there's a fakeness to the relationship. There isn't true sincerity. There isn't love, like a solid foundation. You know, like, I think that the opposite of this love could of sincerity, particularly for facts, would be a chameleon or a fake person, someone that is just gonna do whatever makes you happy and sacrifice some of their own needs along the way. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's bad for the person that they're, you know, sucking up to or ass kissing to or whatever, just to be in a relationship with, because that might not be a true love. You know what I mean? I want to be careful here and not say that it's a waste of time, but it's disingenuous. It's not genuine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right, because genuine and authentic they're like
Mm-hmm.
synonyms for sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question that just came up. It's a little related. How would you want to know in a relationship would you want to know, like, their deepest fear? Like, their fears around the relationship. Like, if they had a fear of losing you, or fear of, you know, you don't like me anymore, or whatever the case, would you want to know?
It's funny that you ask questions like this, and I feel like this happens in a lot of deep talks with people that are in romantic relationships, even friendships.
Yeah.
I think that knowing the deepest levels of anyone you're engaged with in a relationship is probably for the best. As long as it's healthy. You know what I mean? Because you can go back to manipulation or control. You know, if you know what, if you're in a relationship with someone that's not great, you know, abusive or manipulative, you know, understanding some of those deepest, darkest, not even say darkest, just deepest things about someone. You know what I mean? Whether it's an insecurity, a fear, you know, and we're talking about love. I mean, even if it's a love thing, you know, it's like it's something that I like to be touched, or you know, the way you look at me makes me feel this way, or like, you know, appreciation, or so on and so forth. Like, even knowing those deep things about someone, like, to answer your question without going around in too many circles, yes, I think that knowing that type of information about your partner can only strengthen the relationship if all of the other healthy factors, maybe you need to have an O, an R, and an S.
Factors.
Are there.
Factoids.
You know what I mean? All those factors are there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think that if there's one part of these facts that is skewed towards the bad side, that's where I think you know, it could be a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I see how...
Or that the relationship wouldn't be a successful relationship, or that that there would be a lack of love. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm happy that we're talking about the opposites of these love facts, because it's important. I think if you're building love as a skill, like, experiencing all of these negative things are a great way to understanding more about love, I think, in my opinion. And I say that based on my own experience. I think that if you were to have a relationship with, I mean, hey, if you are in a relationship with someone straight out of high school and it's the love of your life and you haven't experienced anything else, I think that, like, in that own little, like, bubble, that's great. If it works for you, then that's fine. I know for me, based on the experiences that I've had, I wouldn't want that. You know what I mean? I've had multiple relationships. I've had multiple partners. I've had friendships that have failed. I've had friendships that have succeeded. I've had relationships that failed. I've had relationships that succeeded and then failed. I wouldn't feel the way I do about all of the stuff that we are talking about if I didn't have those experiences. And I think that I would be blind, and probably still are blind to a lot of facets of the things that we've already been talking about, but I think I would be blind to some of the stuff that we talked about today if I didn't have those experiences. But yeah, I would love to know if there could be more to love as a skill.
There is, but wait, there's more. I have another acronym for truth, actually, too.
Cool.
Talking about putting it in action, but and I like what you said, that your experiences gave you had the experience that you can relate to this, and you can have an opinion about it because you have these experiences. And I think that we're not so different after all, all of us. So I think everyone can relate to an experience in some relationship at some point where there was control or attempt to control, where there was
in themselves or in someone else,
in
or
themselves,
both.
right? Both is important. Yeah, because it's not like, well, I'm the only one who someone's trying to change me and you take me for granted and control. Like, no, we can. It can be both ways, and it's important to look like, where have I been controlling? Where have I been trying to limit someone? Where have I been not caring or taking someone in my life for granted? You know, where have I, even if it's just, you know, server at a restaurant, you know, where have I not appreciated them? Like, oh well, I'm just not gonna leave a tip because I'm cheap, you know. But they gave you excellent service. Why wouldn't you give them a tip, right?
Even if they didn't give you good service,
yeah,
tip.
Exactly.
It's their job.
It's their job, and that's their money too. So, you know, just don't go out to eat if that's the case. And, you know, when have I been, you know, felt silenced or been silent when I should have been communicating? Where have I been jealous or distrustful? Where have I been fake or disingenuous? Those are good questions to ask, because we can all relate somehow to that. And
yeah, we all make those mistakes.
Yeah.
I think learning from them is what's most important. And hopefully anyone can be in a situation where they have enough meditation on their own to learn those things and see it, or have friends or family members or someone else in their life that can, like, point things out so that they can learn from it. Because I think the most dangerous thing in this scenario is making those mistakes but not learning from them and making them over and over again. And someone could be you know, in this column here, in the negative column, you know, doing a lot of bad things, or not even just the whole, you know, the whole column, just have certain aspects of the column. Like they can be great all across the board, but still have that controlling thing. I think that if you go from relationship to relationship and you never truly dig deep down to be like, well, why are these relationships still failing? Then you're never going to learn from those mistakes. You're going to keep making those mistakes, and you're never going to find love for yourself that you could then translate into love for another person.
You will always fail at the skill.
You will just always fail, and we don't want that for humanity either. Just on a zoom out kind of like, you know, just thinking about like us as a species. We want love at the, you know, at the front, because it's powerful. You know what I mean? I think as a species we've lost sight of that to the point where like you can see what's happening around us. You know.
You know what another good C one is cooperation rather than competition. Because competition is a big thing. That's be on the other side.
Yeah, I see that in a lot of relationships. I had that in a relationship. I feel like too, like competition. You know, like who, and that relates to perfection too. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's, you know, this is something that I had to learn, you know, because I value, you know, I have certain values, and I can't say now that perfection is one of them, because I've grown and I have a solid understanding that like it's not real perfection. There's certain beauty in imperfection. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, not to get off track, but yeah, I like that. Cooperation is good. Yeah. I like that. It takes two to tango. Or more.
I have one more question. You said that you have had your experiences that got you to the understanding that you have now.
And I have experiences that I have yet to have that are going to even make me feel different than what I could be talking about now. It's all.
So I actually now have two questions. Would you, as your current self, go back to an older version, a younger version of yourself, and change anything about your experience, or advise him differently if you knew?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Not because I would want to alter the past.
Okay.
But just because I think that, like, for what I've learned now, I would just want to be a better person. I wouldn't want to go back and tell myself, hey, I learned this thing, like, don't be this way now, because you're gonna lose this person. You know, realistically, I think that like life's a journey. You know what I mean? You learn from it, and I think that like you have, in the scenario of like, oh, you don't want to lose this person. Well, I think sometimes you have to lose that person in order to learn something. So my understanding of my world is due to the experiences that I've had, not the lack thereof. So yeah, I mean, yeah, in this scenario, of course I'd go back, because I would want myself to be the best person I can be, so that I can learn even more, because I'd be younger, and you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I think that like it's important to, this is a perfection thing and an imperfection thing. It's important to make mistakes. You can be naturally talented at something, right? But you're never going to be the best. You have to work at it, right? Like with athletes, that's a huge thing, right? So people can be, they have a natural talent for something, but they still have to work hard to get to the level that they're at to perform and be like the best, an Olympic or you know, Olympian rather, or someone that's really good at their sport. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with love. I feel like if you want to be really good at it, you need to fail. You know what I mean?
I hear you. Yeah. With cooking, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's all subjective too. Everyone's taste buds are different. Right. I can cook one meal for 5 people. You know what I mean? Let's keep it small. You know, for every single person is going to taste that differently. 4 out of 5 people might think it's great, and 1 person doesn't. 1 out of 5 might think it's great. You know what I mean? And 4 don't. I think that there's some way that you can relate that to love as well, where there might be someone or multiple people, or again, romantic, but platonic, where, sorry, my back hurts.
No problem.
Where, someone isn't gonna like you or something that you do. You know what I mean? I think that's similar to cooking. You know what I mean? Everyone has different tastes. Even though it's the same product. You're that bowl of macaroni. You're the same product, but how someone views you is going to be different than how someone else does. How someone loves you is going to be different. And I think it's good to hold space for all of that. You know what I mean? Specifically in I think in multiple partner relationships, like polyamory or polygamy or something, like that's a whole nother like topic. I feel like a lot of this conversation has been skewed towards like platonic and like maybe one part, two people relationships. But yeah, for like polyamorous folks, I feel like a lot of this is like tenfold. I think communication, trust, lack of jealousy, sincerity, freedom, and appreciation is very important in multiple partner relationships. Communication specifically.
And communication is a skill, right? Because it's like people will say, you're bad at communicating, or you fail at communicating, or you didn't communicate.
You can study communication
in
at
school.
most major universities.
How about that? Communication 101.
Yeah, for real.
Right? Yeah, I wrote a book about it too. I said, and about trust.
Which book?
Communication is not a game.
Okay.
Yeah, and the trust one.
Yeah.
And the love one. But the communication one I haven't published yet because it's like it's
we were talking about this the last time we saw each other though. You have a manuscript of it, right?
Yeah. Did I send it to you?
No.
Okay, I'll
no,
send it to you.
I can't remember. I can't remember. No, I mean you definitely didn't send it to me, but I can't remember if you had it on you or if it was something that we talked about.
I definitely, you would have remembered it because it's this big.
Yeah.
If I had it on me, you would have seen it.
Yeah, you might not have had it on you.
So,
it might have been love or trust.
Yeah. So it was.
But I know that communication is one of my. It's something that I value, like first and foremost. I think if I was to have a F.A.C.T.S.
Yes.
Like I think communication would be my number one.
Number
I think
one.
C.
Yeah.
I mean, like if I was to have some sort of like.
Be CACs. It'll be the first thing.
Right. Not to say that this is in any particular order.
No,
I mean that like one is like that there's some sort of like ranking to it, but yeah, communication is top for me because then I think everything else kind of falls into place if there's a really really solid level of communication.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to talk to your partners. You gotta be able to feel like you can be yourself and that they can be themselves. You know what I mean?